Braveheart, the 1995 film that won the Best Picture Oscar, was directed by and starred Mel Gibson. It is without a doubt an epic piece of cinema and storytelling and remains one of my favorite films of all time. However, despite its critical acclaim and popularity, the film is rife with historical inaccuracies that distort the real events and characters of the late 12th and early 13th centuries. Today, I'll be looking at how the film embellished historical facts in order to create a compelling but fictionalized account of the wars of Scottish independence. Let's start at the very beginning of the film. In Braveheart, William Wallace is depicted as a commoner with a tragic backstory, his family having been killed by English soldiers, which motivated him to seek vengeance and lead a rebellion. Historically, Wallace was not a simple peasant, as he was born into the lesser Scottish nobility. His father, Sir Malcolm Wallace, was a knight, and the family held land and titles. This noble status provided Wallace with the resources and connections that played a crucial role in his ability to lead and gather support for his cause. The film's portrayal simplifies Wallace's background to make it seem like he was a common man rising up against oppression, a theme that resonates deeply with audiences but is not true. Also, the film significantly condenses and alters the timeline of the wars of Scottish independence, presenting a more streamlined and simplified version of the events. In reality, these wars spanned several decades, involving a complex web of battles, political maneuvers, and shifting alliances. The film merges and omits various key figures and events to create a more coherent and dramatic storyline. This alteration impacts the understanding of the actual historical context, where many developments were gradual and resulted from prolonged struggle and strategic planning rather than the quick succession of events depicted in the movie. One of the most notable inaccuracies in Braveheart is how the filmmakers showed the Battle of Stirling Bridge. According to the film, this battle took place in an open field, with no bridge in sight. Historically, the battle was fought on and around a narrow wooden bridge over the River Forth. The bridge's strategic importance was crucial to the Scottish victory, as Wallace and his co-commander Andrew Moray used its narrowness to their advantage, forcing the English troops into a vulnerable position. The omission of the bridge in the film strips away the tactical brilliance that was key to Wallace's early successes. As well as this battle, the film's portrayal of Scottish clothing and weaponry is also inaccurate. Braveheart famously features Scots wearing kilts and blue face paint. Historically, kilts did not appear in Scotland until the 16th century, which was several centuries later. The face paint depicted in the film is reminiscent of the ancient Picts, who lived in Scotland during the Roman invasion, but this was centuries earlier. During Wallace's time in the late 13th and early 14th centuries, Scots would have worn clothing more in line with contemporary medieval European fashion. These anachronisms, while visually striking, create a romanticized and incorrect image of medieval Scottish warriors. Also in the film, Princess Isabella of France is portrayed as having a romantic relationship with William Wallace and even bearing his child. This is a significant historical inaccuracy. Isabella was only about 10 years old and living in France at the time of Wallace's execution in 1305 and married Edward II in 1308, several years after Wallace's death. This fictional relationship serves to heighten the drama and personal stakes of the story, but has no basis in fact, misrepresenting both Isabella's and Wallace's actual lives. Braveheart also takes significant liberties with its character portrayals, particularly with Edward I, also known as Edward Longshanks, and Robert the Bruce. Edward I is depicted as a nearly caricatured evil tyrant, devoid of any redeeming qualities. While he was indeed a formidable and often ruthless ruler, his portrayal in the film lacks the nuance of his historical persona. Similarly, Robert the Bruce is shown as a conflicted noble who betrays Wallace. While Bruce did switch allegiances at times, he ultimately became a key leader in the fight for Scottish independence after Wallace's death. The film's portrayal simplifies these characters into clear-cut heroes and villains, which distorts the complexity of their historical actions and motivations. Also, the film dramatizes Wallace's execution, portraying him as crying out freedom in defiance as he is tortured. While Wallace was indeed brutally executed, the exact words he spoke are not recorded in historical sources. This scene is a powerful dramatic moment, emphasizing Wallace's steadfastness and the righteousness of his cause. However, it is a fictional embellishment designed to evoke a strong emotional response from the audience. The actual details of his execution were undoubtedly horrific, but this portrayal injects a layer of modern sensibility and heroism that may not have been present. Now, if we look at the Scottish nobility in Braveheart, they are often depicted as self-serving and treacherous, contributing to internal conflicts within the Scottish rebellion. While factionalism and shifting alliances were indeed part of the historical reality, many Scottish nobles were genuinely committed to the cause of independence. The film's portrayal simplifies these dynamics, focusing more on betrayal and personal conflict to drive the narrative. This results in a skewed view of the complex political landscape of medieval Scotland, where loyalties and motivations were influenced by a variety of factors, including familial ties, land interests, and political aspirations. At the end of the film, Edward Longshanks dies at the moment Wallace is executed, creating a dramatic link between the two events. However, Edward actually died in 1307, 2 years after Wallace's execution in 1305. There was no direct connection between these events as portrayed in the film. This creative license serves to heighten the dramatic impact and provide a sense of poetic justice, but it misrepresents the actual sequence of historical events. Edward's death was a result of illness and occurred during a campaign to subdue a Scottish rebellion led by Robert the Bruce, highlighting the ongoing nature of the conflict beyond Wallace's death. While Braveheart is indeed a stirring piece of cinema and a rousing tale of rebellion and freedom, it is definitely not an accurate representation of historical events. The film sacrifices historical accuracy for dramatic effect, altering timelines, characters, and events to create a more cohesive and emotionally compelling story, which, despite all the inaccuracies, is a really good film. If you enjoyed this video, then give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be notified of our next video. Join us next time, where we'll be diving into more fascinating events from history.